Grab your spellbooks and your wands because it's time to return for another semester at the Magical Academy of Aurelium. September marks the second semester of the Aurelium or Magical Readathon, which is hosted by G from Book Roast, which is a super fun interactive readathon where you play as a character attending a magical academy. I participated in the first semester readathon, which was in April of this year. I believe I didn't finish one of the books, but I still decided to count it, so like I'm moving on to the second semester now. My path is the Archmage. G has explained more so about like the different paths within her own video, so I will link all of these resources down below just in case if you are first hearing about this or you want to join. But those resources will be linked below. But today we're going to discuss what books I'm going to be reading. All of these prompts have been discussed in G's video, so that will be linked below. Further ado, let's just jump right into the books. The first class that I need to complete is alchemy. For my path, I need to get a D in alchemy, which means that I need to complete all 3 of the prompts associated with this class. So the first one, which is a sun on the cover. So I have 2 options for this because there's one book that I'm more interested in reading, and then the second one I think fits the prompt a bit better. The one that I'm more interested in reading is Cazadora by Romina Garber. I recently read Lobizona, which is the first book in this series. Really enjoyed it. Romina Garber also used to write under the name Romina Russell, and she wrote the series Zodiac. That is one of my favorite YA sci-fi series of all time, and I really enjoyed this first book, Lobizona, as well. Following a main character named Manu, who is a immigrant living in the US, who discovers that she has ancestry that connects her to basically witches and werewolves, and has to sort of go to this magical academy to study and learn more about her magic and why her magic is unique. So I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoy how Romina Garber integrates themes around like immigration and identity really well, especially within a fantasy medium. And this one also has like that magic school element that kind of reminds me a lot of the Magical Readathon in general. So you might be like, where is the sun on the cover? And if you can see, it's kind of like hard to tell, but our main character Manu actually has suns in her eyes. It's technically a sun on the cover, though it's very small. So I don't know how well it counts for the prompt, but I'm more excited to read this one than my other option, but I still like my other option. The other one I have is called Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura. This one is like Indiana Jones meets romance, I guess. I thought it seemed really interesting because we're following a character who is like an archaeologist who has to go on these like expeditions and ends up like falling in love with her rival. So I grew up watching a lot of the like Indiana Jones films, The Mummy, and I loved the Tomb Raider games when I was younger as well. I do like the kind of how this one sounds, but I have heard some not good opinions about it. Like it just seems to be a pretty like middle of the road book for most people, so I'm not like super excited to pick it up, but it does have a sun that is on the cover that I think is more noticeable than the sun on Cazadora. The next prompt is Cover in the Color of Birth Flower, and this is another one that I have 2 options for because there are like 2 options for the birth flower for my month. I was born in April, so the main one is the daisy, but I don't know if this is just like a personal struggle that I have, but like I don't own a lot of books that have like pure white covers, so I kind of struggle to find one. I did find one that is partially white, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to tackle that book just yet. Then the other flower is the sweet pea flower, which is a pink flower. The first book that I have, and this is the one that works for the daisy, is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. I have been trying to read this book for 3 years now. I think I finished the Red Rising original trilogy back in 2022, I believe. So I've been waiting ever since then to start this, but I just like can't convince myself to do it. I'm so emotionally attached to these characters, and I know that the events that happen in these later books are even more emotionally devastating than in the first trilogy, and I'm just like not ready to emotionally handle that. Really do need to start the second half of the series because I know that Red God is probably going to come out next year, and I would like to be able to read that one with everyone else who is hyped about the series because it's a series that I have been reading for quite some time. I do have a lot of things like going on in my personal life at the moment, so I'm just not 100% sure if I'm ready to tackle the emotional intensity of this book, plus the fact that it's also like a 600-ish page book as well. I still am excited for this. To give a brief summary, the Red Rising series is like a sci-fi epic, and we're following a character living in the aftermath of humanity's colonization of Mars, and he is from the group called the Reds, which are like the lowest people in society, and he basically goes under this process of genetic modification to become one of the golds to sort of disrupt the base of power. And this one is the second series to that, so it picks off where that first series ends and has a different plot line, and also, unlike the first trilogy, multi-perspective narration as opposed to a singular perspective. So I am really interested in this, and to be back in the world and back with all these characters that I love, even though I know that horrible things are going to happen to these characters. And then my second option for this, and a bit ironic because it has a different flower name in the title, is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This was the February Fairy Loot book, and I have been itching to read it since it's arrived, but for some reason I keep on putting it off, just like I do with Iron Gold, because I feel like I'm really going to enjoy this one. It has a lot of like tropes that I really enjoy, and one of the comp titles for it has been the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black, or the Folk of the Air series, which I adore. It's one of my favorite series of all time. So having this one be comp to one that I love so dearly, and then also have a lot of other tropes that I like, makes it really appeal to me, but I'm so nervous that I won't enjoy it. So both of these are possibilities for that prompt. And then the last prompt for the alchemy classes is auto by author, and this one is once again another prompt that was a bit difficult for me, largely because a lot of the auto by authors that I have are ones where I read all of their books as soon as I get them. I have a lot of others that are like auto buy authors, but it's like I don't like buying books that I'm not interested in, and there's very few amount of authors that will make me interested enough to pick up anything that they write, and then I don't read it as soon as I get it. The author that I did choose is one that I would kind of consider an auto buy author for me, even though there is like one of her works that I haven't bought, and it's Ellie Hazelwood, and the book is Not in Love. This one I would kind of count as being like an auto buy author, because this book, if it was written by anyone else, I don't think I would be interested in it. I'm only really like interested in Ellie Hazelwood because I have loved her books so much, and I feel like even though there have been some duds for her as well, I really did not enjoy The Love Hypothesis and Check and Mate. Not in Love I picked up a while ago and just haven't like read it, and then her recent release has been Problematic Summer Romance or something like that, and it's like the sequel to this, so I can't read that one until I read this one. But our main character is our scientist, and then the male main character I believe is like a business guy who's like trying to buy her company or something like that, and I don't know, I don't really like workplace style romances, and I'm not really interested in like characters working in like business or stuff like that. I feel like even before starting this book, the male main character is kind of giving me the ick, but I'm still like optimistic that I might enjoy it. I think it's more so because Ellie Hazelwood is a hit or miss author for me that I'm more hesitant about it. The next prompt is for inscription, and so this is the next class that I have to fulfill, and I have to receive the Q in this, which is the second one, so I have to do 2 prompts for this. So the first one is read a book with a prime number of letters in the title. I've decided to go with a book that has 13 letters in the title, which is Arcana Academy by Elise Kova. This is one of my most anticipated releases for this year. I really enjoy Elise Kova's Married to Magic series, and I'm also really excited about seeing how she explores the Academy trope in this one, because I have read her Air Awakens series, and I thought that one was going to have more of an Academy sort of like studying magic element to it, and spoiler alert, it does not. So I'm hoping that Arcana Academy will pay off from where I was disappointed with the Air Awakens series, which I still have yet to continue. I'm very optimistic about Arcana Academy, and I'm also very intrigued by the magic system, which has like a tarot card based magic system, and also because of the Academy it kind of reminds me a lot of the Autumn Readathon in general, so I'm kind of hoping that it will fit those vibes. This is also the Fairy Loot exclusive edition, which I did a recent like unboxing for, so if you want to check that video out as well, it will be on my channel and I'll try and maybe link it as well. So yeah, this one I'm very excited for, and I talk a lot more about the book in that video, so very excited to read this one. The next one was probably the hardest prompt for me to find, which was a vertical spine title, and so this is like spine, it had to be the letters and like a vertical. From my massive collection of owned books, there was literally one singular book that I could find that had this style of title without being a book that I've already read, and I'm kind of upset about it because the book is sun damaged and it was an exclusive edition, so you can already tell from just looking at it that it's like a lot of sun damage here because it was sitting in a place on the bookshelf that was getting all the sun, so I'm really upset about it. But it does have the sides. This one, I think we're following a main character who owns like a pawn shop that she inherits from her father, and it has like magical artifacts that they sell, and I think her father goes missing and she has to go on some sort of like quest or adventure to find him with another character. So there's our two characters in the I don't really know what to expect from it. I've heard some like pretty mixed reviews on it, with more people swinging towards the sort of like this is a decent book or a bad book, and then anyone actually enjoying it, so I'm not too excited for this one. The next class that I have to complete is Artificery, and I only have to complete the first prompt for this one, which is to read the 9th book that you see on social media. A lot of others have been like filming themselves going through, but like I just decided to do like what was the closest video I saw after I watched G's announcement video, and that was one of the recent episodes of Becca from Becca and the Books' Shelve It or Scrap It series, and in the thumbnail of the video she is holding a stack of books, and the 9th book that she is holding in her hands is actually For Ruined Realms by Mai Corlin, which is a book that I have been wanting to read. I read the first book, Five Broken Blades, earlier this year and really enjoyed it, and I was actually encouraged to pick it up based on Becca enjoying that book so much. I think that's pretty fitting that I'm now picking up the second book because of her as well. I really enjoyed Five Broken Blades. It was actually one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year, so I am really excited to get to For Ruined Realms as well. The book follows kind of like ragtag group of like criminals and misfits that are basically tasked with stealing something in order to kill the immortal king. It's a really interesting story, and the first book ended on a pretty big cliffhanger, so I've kind of been like wanting to continue on with this series ever since. So thank you to Becca for having read this book and her Shelve It or Scrap It. It's really because of her that I'm able to read it and put it for this prompt. The next class that I need to do is Spells and Incantations, and I need to do the first two prompts. And the first prompt is to roll a d6 and then choose a book that is within that number of pages. So 1 would mean you have to read a book between 100 and 200 pages, all the way up to 6 being a book between 600 and 700 pages. So I have a d6 here that I'm going to take a little video of me rolling it, and then we'll choose the book. I have a couple of options that I would like to get on, so I'm hoping for either a 3 or a 4 for this. I got a 3, which means that I actually get to read one of the books that I want to. I'm going to show off the 3 books now because the next prompt is to read a new release, and all 3 of these books are new releases. Whichever one I don't choose for this prompt, I can just, you know, kind of use them interchangeably. So the first one that I have is A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim. This is kind of a follow-up to her series Six Crimson Cranes, which was a duology. I'm really excited for this one because I know that the male main character in this is a character from the Six Crimson Cranes duology that I really enjoyed his story, so I'm excited to see her expand upon that character's story as well as meet our new FMC as well. A love story between them, and there's also something to do with dragons. I don't really know too much else about the book, and I'm kind of trying to go into it as blind as possible. Another one that I'd love to read is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. I loved The Spell Shop by this author as well, in the same world, but it's a spin-off series, so we're following a different main character, but it is set in the same world, and from what I'm gathering has a sort of similar plot line of like cozy fantasy, setting up a little small business kind of thing, except for in this case it's an enchanted greenhouse as opposed to her little spell shop. I'm really excited for this one. I think this is the one that is within the 300 page range. So this one is about 370 pages. So this will be the one that I'm reading for the D6 prompt. Third book that I had is The Nightshade God by Hannah Witten. This is the third book in the Nightshade Crown trilogy. I really enjoyed this series so far. I loved the first book, and I did enjoy the second one, but not as much as the first one. And we're following a main character named Lore who has powers over what's called Mortem, which is basically death magic, and the world in this is inspired by the Ancien Regime in French history. And I really like the basis that the author pulls from both history and mythology to create the world building and the lore in this world. I also just like our main character as well. I think she has a really interesting backstory, and I think she's a pretty like strong character that has like her own personality. The last book did on a pretty big cliffhanger, so I've been like itching to pick this one up ever since. I'm kind of nervous about it because I don't know what's going to happen to these characters. The Enchanted Greenhouse will be my pick for the D6 roll, and then the new release prompt will either be fulfilled by a Forgery of Fate or the Nightshade God, depending on which one I feel more inclined to pick up. Anyways, that I think brings it into my TBR for the Magical Readathon. Thank you for joining me here, and I hope that you enjoyed listening to me talk about these books and maybe got some inspiration for what books you would like to be reading for Magical Readathon. If you haven't already selected those books, or maybe this stokes your interest in participating in the Magical Readathon, thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye.